Hey y'all. I will miss you like so much. I wish that I had you in my classroom, but that's okay. At least we're all in the same boat together. I'm going to introduce you to chapter 13. So if you need to get your book, let me rephrase that. Get your book and open it up to page 309. Hopefully you have read the pages before you watch this video. I would suggest it because I think it will help you out a lot if you watch that video. If you read the pages first. It'll help you kind of pay attention a little bit better. Either way, you do need to have that book in front of you, so when I reference some things, you can take a look at it. Okay, page 309 just introduces you to this idea of heredity and genetics. I want to draw attention to a couple of things on this page. DNA is a set of instructions for your body. Everyone has unique DNA. I also wanted to point out that the DNA, if it's really long, your body is full of it. But if you were to stretch it out as far as you can, as in put one cell on top of the other cell on top of the other cell and put it in one long chain, it would reach from the earth to the sun and back more than 300 times. Now, I've kind of beat into your heads how far away the sun is. In case you forgot, 93 million miles. So 93 million miles and back again, so times 2, times 300. That's how many DNA cells are in your body. I also wanted to draw your attention to this concept of heredity starting on page 310. So I want you to flip over to there really fast. It introduces you to a few things that you might not have known was controlled by genes, but some of them are controlled by traits. So traits are things you've inherited from your parents. For example, my red hair definitely came from my parents. It actually came from both parents because there are redheads on both sides of my family. They are controlled. Let's see, I'm going to read it directly, so make sure you have it. So traits are another thing for characteristics. These traits are controlled by genes, which are small sections of the DNA strands found in the chromosomes. Okay, heredity is the passing of traits from parents to offspring. You have inherited or received traits from your parents, but not all of them are permanent. Okay, some of them can be changed. So my height, like how tall I am, definitely came from my dad's side of the family. My dad is like a giant, and his dad is a giant. So that came from them. But something like my speech, as in the way I speak, not just speaking English, but speaking my nice southern accent, like the fact that I'll call y'all like all the time, that's from my, that's not a trait. That's not something that I didn't have a choice in, as in because of where I grew up, that's why I speak that way. Also, I wanted to draw your attention to page 311. You see some pictures of some traits. These, hold on, I'm going to read it from your book again. Other traits, however, you either have or do not have. If you fold your hands together and you look at which thumb goes on top, unless you actually make a conscious effort, like unless you're thinking about it, the same thumb will usually be on top. For example, my left thumb is on the top. That is not something I think about. It's just something that's in my DNA. There are other things here like rolling your tongue, the straight hairline, the widow's peak. In case you can't tell, I don't have a peak. It just goes straight across. Also, I can roll my tongue. See? Some of you can't roll your tongue. It's not because you're, not good at it. It's because in your DNA, you have instructions not to do that. So I assigned you 2 different labs. You could choose either a survey or you could choose a DNA molecule. If you chose the survey, this is what I mean. You need to have 15 people, survey them to see which of these things they have. The earlobe thing. See, look, my earlobes are not attached at the bottom. My thumb, definitely bent. Which, by the way, if you want to use me for one of your people to survey, I just gave you all the answers. Yep, I just gave you all the answers. bent thumb, unattached earlobe, straight hair lobe. I'm sorry, hair lobe. Look at me. I even talk funny on these videos. Anyway, straight hairline, left thumb dominant, and yeah, I can roll my tongue. You want to see it again? Okay, so moving on to the other lab that I gave you. This is the other choice for you, and you can find it on page 312. It talks about, oh my goodness, I just gave you the wrong page, didn't I? That's the same one for the genes. You guys know I'm crazy in the classroom. I forget all sorts of things in the classroom, so I figure if I make a mistake in a video, it's just me, and you're pretty much used to that by now. Okay, the other lab you can choose is in your activity manual, and you can find it on pages 209 and 210. This is creating a DNA model. Okay, the instructions, the materials tell you they have to use these chenille wires. You don't have to use those. Okay, you can use whatever you want. I had a message from somebody asking me if they could use clay. Sure, use whatever you want, but they do have to have different colors, and you have to follow the rest of the instructions. Okay, when you're done, yes, it should look somewhat like you see it in the book here. Okay, so don't go too far off. Okay, speaking of genetics, the double helix. If you're looking at the top of page 313, you'll understand what I mean by the double helix. There's a picture there. It's, I'm going to read this from your book, or, I'll get all tongue-tied. Okay, so for years, scientists studied DNA trying to determine its shape. Then they discovered that it has a shape. They also discovered these things called bases. They have, think of it like a ladder, a twisted ladder. Okay? Sugar, phosphate, and molecules form the sides of the ladder. The rungs are formed with the 4 basic structures of DNA. They are called bases. These 4 bases are similar to a 4-letter alphabet. Even before Watson and Crick, which are mentioned earlier on this page, discovered the shape, the scientists learned that only certain bases would fit together. Base A only fits with base T, and base G only fits with base C. The order in which the bases are arranged creates the code, or the pattern, for each gene. So that's how your genes are put together. The next page tells you about some of the patterns, and I do want you to read these pages to make sure you're clear. All right, last thing. Probably the last thing. I hope it's the last thing. You have a quiz coming up. Today is Tuesday. You have a quiz on Thursday. It's going to cover everything that I just told you about. That starts on page 309 and goes through page 314. Your lab is also due on Thursday. This is this coming Thursday, the 7th. So quiz and lab due. Remember that labs count for quite a lot of points, so make sure you do a really good job on these. Speaking of your labs, I did tell you this wouldn't be the last thing, didn't I? Of course not, because it's me, and you know that I always have something else to say. Anyway, if you're doing the DNA lab, as in making the molecule model, I need pictures of your activity manual pages, both of them. But I also need a picture of your actual model. I don't want you to create a model that I never see. So create that model and make sure that I get a picture of that model. Okay? Oh, also on the genetics lab, if you're doing that one, there's a section in there called the follow-up. You don't need to do that either. It's surveying an additional 15 people. Don't worry about that. You don't have to do that at all. Okay, I hope you guys are doing really, really well, and I miss you a lot.